Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today's meeting will be about effective communication in the workplace, and this will teach us how to adapt our communication style from informal to professional in a workplace setting. I'm going to share my screen. This will cover some of the topics or terms that we have covered throughout the last couple of weeks or sessions. Basically how to adapt to, how to code switch in different settings and how to present ourselves in a positive way in order to build and maintain a positive reputation. So for the learning objectives, we will be learning understanding what communication is. So basically distinguishing the day-to-day communication to effective communication in the workplace. For the second learning objective, we will be learning about professional networking. So basically identifying various factors about professional networking while distinguishing the differences between in-person and online interactions. And the third will be understanding the importance of active listening in the role of effective communication. So, what is communication? Communication is a process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, and feelings between individuals or groups through different mediums. It often involves a sender who conveys a message and a receiver who interprets it. So as you can see at the bottom, you have three images. The first one is a message, right? So that is the communications piece that's being um, provided to an individual or group. So we have the message and then we have the receiver. So the receiver is the person that's receiving that message. And then when you receive that message, what we have to do, or what we usually do as individuals, is that we're trying to process what a message means, right? So me communicating, me speaking, so this is verbal communication. I am delivering you with a message, which is basically the topic of the presentation and what I'm going to be discussing today. And you, as a viewer, as an intern that are required to participate or, view the um, professional workshops, the online workshops, you are the one that's receiving the messaging that I'm providing you. So now it is your turn to decipher or interpret, translate what is the message that I'm translating to you and how does that connect to your life, right? The same way how if your friend sends you a text message, right? That is a message that's being sent through the phone or technological internet, whatever, however you want to call it. You are the receiver because you are the person that they're sending the text to. And now you have to interpret, hmm, what does this mean? What does this emoji means? How is she? What is the tone of voice in the messaging, right? So there's a lot that goes into making sure that the message that is being delivered is being effective to the audience member, which are going to be learning a little more in detail in the later slides. So now let's describe the different types of communication. So the first one is verbal communication. So this means speaking to you. Something that is very important to think about when delivering a message is a tone of voice of that message. Because not only depending of the words, but also the pitch, the tone of voice that a message is being delivered can change the message in the sense if I am speaking to you in a very professional manner, but okay, let's see. I have a video that I'm going to show you that explains this perfectly. And I'm going to show at the end. Let's say that I am very mad. I'm very upset. Um, I sound very calm. but my words are not being the best, right? But I'm still very calm. Even though my tone of voice is calm, you can tell based on my body language and the words that I'm choosing to express to you that I am not calm, right? The same way as if I am yelling, but I'm saying nice things. Even if it's nice things, it might sound or it might translate as aggressive because of the way or the tone of I'm saying it, right? And then we have nonverbal communication. So that can be sign language, that can be other methods of communication that is not verbal. So communicating through, you know, and then we have written communication, and that is when you write, that can be on a piece of paper. Then we also have visual communication. As you all know, in my experience in classrooms and different learning settings, people have different learning styles. From other is audio visual, so they have to hear and they have to see for the information, for them to process the information. For others, they can just read some instructions and they can follow the information very clearly. Let's say for me, I am a visual learner. If I purchase something on Amazon that I have to build, I would not read the instructions. I don't have the concentration to do that. I need to watch a video of how to build a drawer. Like that's just me, right? So also understanding that there's different methods of communication is important to discovering how do you want it to deliver that message and how do you want to connect with the audience. So as some of you might already know from doing some class presentations in school, the audience members are those who are receiving the message that you're delivering to, right? We are also going to talk about the difference between group communication and one-on-one communication. So one-on-one is just when you communicate from one individual to another individual. And then group communication is when you have to communicate the same message to different individuals in the same setting, right? So as you know, in one-on-one communication, it can be a little more intimate. Sometimes less confusion happens, but when it's in group communication, you have to deal with different personalities. You have to deal with people that communicate differently, right? So how can we maintain a neutral, general, but still concise and clear messaging for that group, right? That requires a different set of skill because some people they can communicate with one person, but they're not able to communicate in a large group setting, right? So how do you maintain a organized communication with that group? How is that being effective? How is that being efficient, right? How is that not wasting time? And how are we increasing productivity while providing that messaging? And the mass communication is when you communicate to the masses, right? So hundreds, thousands, millions of people. Usually somebody that has a business, let's say Nike, you communicate to the masses, you communicate to different populations and worldwide. So how do you communicate to people from different culture, from people to people that have different languages, right? How do you adapt that communication style that requires some cultural adaptation, making sure that you have awareness of different culture, languages. Because if I'm speaking to you right now in English, but if you speak Spanish, the messaging that I'm saying to you is not going to connect to you because you don't understand what I'm saying, right? So I can speak very formal, very professional, very appropriate, but if you don't speak the language that I'm speaking, you're still not getting the message. And if you don't get the message, I'm not communicating with you, right? So making sure that communication is flowing appropriately is key. So what are some of the barriers to effective communication? The first one, as I mentioned, is the language barrier. If we speak it in different languages and we're not understanding each other, or if we have different skills, which I'm going to mention later on, such as the technological barrier. I can use my iPhone. I know how to type. I can FaceTime. I can, do a Zoom meeting. I have knowledge when it comes to that. But my grandfather, he doesn't know how to use a phone. He doesn't text. He doesn't know how to do a phone call. So how do you communicate with somebody that doesn't have the same skill set or the same knowledge when it comes to technology, right? You have to be a little more creative. So that is a barrier, right? My grandfather doesn't know how to use a phone. He doesn't know how to use a computer. So how do I communicate with him, right? Cultural differences. People that come from different culture, they communicate different. For example, in the Western culture, it has been normalized to make eye contact when communicating with another person. Why? Because that shows that you're engaged, that you're interested in the conversation, that you're paying attention, that you're listening to the person, right? But in some of the Asian cultures, such as Japan, eye contact can also be seen as offensive and disrespectful, right? So keeping that in mind, that can be a huge cultural difference because if you go to Japan and you're looking at somebody making a strong eye contact, they might think that, that is so disrespectful. But you, for coming from the Western culture, you think that the fact that they're not making eye contact shows that it's disrespectful to you because they're not paying attention to what you're saying, right? So there comes that cultural difference. Interpersonal barriers. People have different personalities that communicate differently, and just informational overload. And I wanted to include that one. It's the last one, but I think it's huge. As we all know, we are in the age of instant gratification, meaning that we want to receive things fast, and information overload, meaning that we receive information for so many outlets or medias that can be overwhelming to us, right? Because we see the news, like there's multiple news channels. You have Apple News, you have the news on Snapchat, you have them on Instagram, you have articles, you have so many news and so many information coming to you that can cause some confusion, make you overwhelmed, and possibly not even help you understand the context or the messaging that they're providing, right? For example, if I need to read I'd rather read one page that is concise, clear, and to the point of the main topic of the message. They're reading 15 pages for me to find out what it was about, right? So there you can see like that is so much information when it could be cut and just minimized and concise. Like something that is 15 pages could easily be done in 1.5 pages, right? And it's more easy to digest and consume when it comes to that information. Because I am not going to remember every single thing that I read in the 15 pages. But if I read 1.5 pages that is very clear, I'm going to be able to understand, correct? So what can we do to overcome some of the areas that we just mentioned? The first one is training and professional development. In practice, learning how to communicate with different people in different settings, right? Learning how to consciously or unconsciously turn on that code switching. How can we adapt to different people in different settings, right? And something that I always mention in my classes, the way that you communicate with your friends is very different than the way that you communicate with your parents or the way that you communicate with your supervisors, right? That is something that you do instantly. That's a switch that happen internally within your brain or yourself. And that's how you know I need to behave this way with these people or in this place. Because the way that you act in school with your friends is not the same way that you're going to act in church, right? Because of the setting, because of the people, because of the events that are happening in that place. So having some spatial and social awareness is key when it comes to this. Having cultural sensitivity, right? As we mentioned, when it comes to the cultural barriers. So making sure that you're culturally aware. Active listening is also very important when it comes to overcoming those barriers of some miscommunication or confusion, providing information by actually paying attention to what the message or the person that's providing the message is saying to you, instead of just listening to respond, listening to comprehend, right? And lastly, effective technological use, making sure that, in this age, now with AI and different technological improvements, that we are keeping up with those changes to make sure that we know how effectively use technology in our advantage, which is great. Now let's talk about professional work ethic. This one is specifically about emails, but there's a few things that I want to say that it's not included here. Once again, you don't communicate the same way that you communicate with your friends to your coworker. So making sure that when you are communicating with your supervisor is in a very respectful manner, and also making sure that it is done in a timely manner. Usually, it is seen as inappropriate to send a text message to a supervisor when it's not in the work hours established. So usually that can be from 8 to 5, 9 to 6, depending on the work schedule. Sending a text message at 12 a.m., it seems very unprofessional and even disrespectful to the supervisor, just because that's supposed to be their personal time. And once again, it depends if it's, an emergency. It definitely varies situation by situation. Depends if it's an emergency, a work emergency. Maybe you won't be able to show up to work in the next morning because, you had a family emergency, something happened, and you wanted to inform that person, right? Things like that. Something else to keep in mind is that grammar is key and very important. Making sure that you're just not using slang with communicating with your supervisor is key. In the sense that I don't want to see any of my students or interest sending me a text saying, "Yo, Miss V, what's up?" Mm, that I seem as unprofessional. One, because I am your supervisor. Two, because we don't have that relationship. And three, it's just not appropriate for the workplace, right? So it's very important to know those differences. What can you do? What is acceptable in the workplace and what is not acceptable in the workplace? So when it comes to the emails, making sure that the emails are concise and clear. They're straightforward, easy to understand. We don't want to make it more confusing than what already is, right? And as I mentioned in the example, don't do 15 pages when the information can be done in 1 page or 1 page and a half, right? The second, if when you are in a work environment that that has a different group of people or different programs, or whatever the job is, you're going to have to participate in staff meetings, right? So making sure that you're on time, that you're paying attention, practicing that active listening that we just mentioned, and making sure that you're also contributing to the conversation. You want to make sure that you're providing feedback, that the conversation is going smoothly, and also making sure that your tone of voice and body language is appropriate, right? Because you don't want to say something nice but then look like this, right? We want to make sure that everything is coming together as one messaging portraying, right? Because once again, your body language, your tone of voice, what you're saying provides a message, right? Some people say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think it's both, right? Because your body language, believe it or not, is already sending a message. So let's say if my supervisor is talking to me and I'm looking up, I'm looking down, I'm looking everywhere but their eyes, that's gonna seem as disrespectful, right? If I'm making faces, if my eyes look confused, that's going to be translating something to that person. So it's important to make sure that the message is being sent as a whole, right? The other one is making sure that you're taking constructive feedback, asking and taking feedback in a positive and respectful manner is key. Not only helps you in your professional life, but also helps you in your personal life, believe it or not, to become a better person, just to become better at code switching. This is something that we would do in a live session, so please just skip this. So, what are some of the communication mistakes? One, lack of clarity in the message, meaning that it's too confusing. It's just not easily able to be understood. Not practicing active listening. When you're never listening, you're always confused, and you have to ask the other person, "Hey, what did she say? What did she say? So, what do I have to do?" That's just not a good view when it comes to you as a worker or you as a professional. Using inappropriate tone or language is unacceptable in the workplace. You should bring your A game when you go to work, when it comes to the way that you're communicating, when it comes to the way that you're behaving, when it comes to the way that you're performing, right? So making sure that once again, that message is being sent as a whole, ignoring nonverbal cues. If somebody's sending you a message like, yo, don't say this, with their faces, don't say, like, stop saying things, right? So making sure that you're also having that social awareness and you're aware of what the others in the room that you are in are thinking, looking, what is the setting, what is the situation, right? Mhm. And now for the email etiquette. This is key. In a professional setting, you usually don't send text messages. You send emails to your coworkers, employers, and customers, right? So email etiquette is key for good professional reputation, not only of you, but also the image of the company that you're representing. So we always have to make sure that we're being clear, respectful, using professional communication or language, maintaining a positive language image, and preventing any misunderstanding. So here we have, these are the parts of an email. The first thing is a subject. That's basically what the email is about. It always has to be under 8 words, very clear, very concise. So as soon as I see the subject, I know what the email is going to be about before I open it, right? Usually the first sentence is a greeting. That can be good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hi, hello, dear, depending of, the messaging and who you're sending it to. And then we usually always have a direct opening that explains the reason of the email, right? So this person says, could you please clarify why I failed this previous assignment, right? And then we have the body of the email, which provides more details of what the email is about. So what is the purpose? So for this example, we see that the person says, hello, Professor Morgan. And then we have the direct opening line. Could you please clarify why I failed this previous assignment? In the body, it says, I believe that I followed the instructions, but may have been confused about the due date while dealing with some personal issues. If so, I apologize for my late submission and understand if that's the reason for the fail. I just wanted to confirm that's the reason and whether there's anything that I can do to make up the work, right? And then we always have to have a closing that summarizes the email. So here she says, I assure you that it won't happen again. I'll pay more attention. Or sometimes I say, depending on the email, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Please feel free to reach out here, or please feel free to send me a text message. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want to do a follow-up, things like that. And always have a closing signature at the bottom. That's just what it seems to be the most formal way to end an email. So it usually says best regards or best or thanks, comma, and then your name underneath. Never put everything in the same line. It has to be the closing statement or the line, quote, whatever you want to call it. comma, and then your name underneath. As you can see here, that's just a more professional and organized email way to organize things. Mhm. And then this is something that you will do in a live session, so you don't have to. Oh, sorry. Now, this is a part that I thought it was very important to cover. Now that you're entering that stage where you're connecting with future mentors or employers or looking for your first job, right? So professional networking is key. As you know, it is what you know, but also who you know in the industry to get you with that job. So professional networking refers to the process of building and maintaining professional relationships that will help you gain more job opportunities for the future. The most important thing is that I'm gonna put an example. Let's say you go to a a conference, right? For example, I am interested in going to law school, so I'm going to a pre-law conference, right? So there I'm meeting lawyers, law professors, people that are interested in going in the same field as me, right? So there I know, hey, there's a great opportunity for me to connect with multiple people because they have the same interests as me. They might have more experience than me, or they might be in the same boat as me, right? So the first thing is always be polite, respectful, introduce yourself, be attentive to what they're saying, be confident but humble. You can share your achievements without boasting. Like you don't have to be arrogant or cocky and make it seem as if you're better than anybody else, but just humbly share, your experiences. Look as if you're ready to learn, and just being kind and polite, right? Because once again, there's the tone of voice. There's a difference if I say, yeah, like, oh my God, I have done this. This person hasn't done anything, or, let me see. Let me see if I'm good at acting. Um, but yeah, I have been hired by like 10,000 employees. So like, what are you waiting for to hire me or something? That's just not the best way to say it. But if I say, but yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad that I met you. I'm actually currently looking for a new job position, and I feel like the field that you are in is something that I'm highly interested. So I wanted to know if we can follow up and schedule a meeting so that you can tell me a little more about your responsibilities and to see if there's any opening in your company. You see, like that looked sounded a little different and a little more professional. Instead of just saying like, oh yeah, give me a job or something like that. Be prepared, always have your business cards or brief introduction ready. Have the um what is this? Elevator speech. Elevator pitch. No, elevator pitch. So that's basically when you communicate in a few seconds who you are, what you do, what are your interests, right? So I can say, hi, my name is Valerie. I'm currently the youth development specialist at the Center for Latino Progress, and I mainly work facilitating and mentoring the youth in Harvard, right? So like that's quick. That's who I am, what I do, where I work, what's my position, right? Or you can say, and I'm currently highly interested in getting into the law field. I have had some experiences being the VP at the Pre-Law Society at my university. You know what I mean? Like fast, quick, professional, sending a message that you're interested in this field. You have some experience. You can communicate very well, right? Be punctual is very important. Arrive on time to meeting and events. Let's say if you go to let's keep up with a pre-law, going to law school thing. Let's say if you go to a pre-law conference that starts at 9, why are you showing up at 10:30 when the introductions already started? Everybody can see that you're late, you're confused about what's happening, right? So making sure that you're arriving on time is very important. and making sure that you follow up with the people that you meet. So let's say if I met 10 people and I talked to 10 people and I felt like I made, good correction, connection or rapport with, I'm gonna follow up with them. I'm gonna send them a quick text because most likely I've already gathered information, or email, hey Vanessa, I just wanted to say it was so nice meeting you. I love when we connected about this, our passion with law. I feel like our stories were very similar. I would definitely love to follow up by having some dinner with you or something like that, right? Very quick, thanking the person up for meeting them, highlighting a specific thing that you talked about in the conversation, and then saying, oh, hey, I want to follow up. You can either do, a virtual meeting, a dinner, or something like that, depending on what works best for you and the person. But yeah, and then this is something that we will do in person. So thank you so much, guys. Hope you have a great day. Be safe. Take care.